Welcome back to Lost in Roshar. Oh, wait, that's your line.
Oh, he sabotaged me. The plot twists were even better than Sando. Welcome back. Get out of here, Jimmy, to Lost in Roshar, the ultimate journey through the Stormlight Archive. I'm Christian.
And I'm Jimmy, learning my place. Today, we are diving into chapters 18 and 19, and as always, full spoilers ahead for the entire published books for the Stormlight Archive. So if you have not read them yet, we'll see you later. For everyone else, welcome back to Roshar. Christian, how are you?
Mate, I'm concerned. What is this? What is going on? You're jumping ahead of the queue.
I do a lot of intros throughout the week, and and sometimes I'm the lead, I guess, and sometimes I'm not. I'm in full leader mode here. It's hard. It's hard to take a back seat sometimes. I just want to dive in and get into the chapters, you know?
I think you've been prepping too much for our bridge run competition.
That's what it
you're
is.
the bridge leader. But
I'm hopped up on Kremlin pre-workout.
Hey, at least I'm making a profit.
There it is.
Business is booming. Christian Kremling supplements. Get them now.
Christian Kremling, the capitalist, just always nailing down these profits, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, Jimmy intro Storm Blessed. No, it doesn't have the same ring to it.
It does.
I'll have to think of something.
Nah, it's more of a movie star name. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Storm Blessed, a man against a storm.
If I get, again, straight to the adaptation talk, if I can get Jimmy Stormblessed somewhere in the credits of the adaptation somehow, I'll be happier than actually working on these. I'd be like, as long as Jimmy Stormblessed is in there.
I would be happy as well, because that means that I'm getting paid to hopefully help with an adaptation for a fantasy series. That'd be sick.
Can you imagine a post-credit scene and it's just two Kremlings watching and we do the voiceovers?
I would be like, there's like an outro, you know, and that concludes The Way of Kings.
Yes, uploading to the Kremling Hive. Oh man, one can dream, can't we?
Yes, we can, and one day it'll happen. I believe it.
Yeah, I think so, mate. How's your week been?
It's been good. We got a lot going on, but all good things for the most part. And this weekend, I have my best friend's coming in, and he's staying a few days. It's like we're going to be teenagers again. We're going to be drinking high sugar drinks. We bought a bunch of One Piece themed sodas, and
nice.
we're going to be doing a taste test, and that's going to go up on my manga channel, Dudes Talking Manga, hopefully in the next week or two, once we get that filmed. But you know, we're gonna go down and shoot some dice. We're gonna go get some crabs. We're gonna do a bunch of cool stuff. So I'm really excited for it, and hopefully I can convince him to maybe read the Stormlight Archive, because I'm going to be having him on my other podcast where I talk about books, and a lot of it's going to be me just like yelling books at him to read. And this is definitely on the short list of books that I want him to try. Yeah,
it's what I do basically with any person I interact with. It could be a random on the street. Hey, which way? Can you give me some directions? Yeah. So what you want to do is go down that bookstore and get the Stormlight Archive, mate. Change your schedule because you walk into the wrong place. The other day I was in a bookshop, and it's very easy to spot Sanderson here because it's all, you know, similar spines. They've got those white covers here, and it was all out of order, mate. And I couldn't leave this place until I had reordered The Way of Kings. Started on the left. And, you know, because it's also in parts here as well. Part 1, part 2. It was all mixed up. I'm like, how could a new fan even begin? So I'm hoping I've helped someone. And they're like, okay, that's book 1. Beautiful.
Did you have a cape and a mask on whenever you did this? You're a hero.
I went into Kremling form, mate, and I just scuttled up there. And it just really had to push it over. And I was like, get Skyward next to Words of Radiance. What are we doing? Honestly, what are we paying these people for?
How dare you?
Yeah, honestly, come on. But
how's your week been? Been good?
Yeah, it's good, man. Settling into the new place. Hopefully, I'm not sure how the audio is here. I wonder if I feel it's a little echoey, but you know, I'll figure this out in time. I'm surrounded by boxes full of so many books, and I'm looking for a bookshelf. I'm looking for a glorious shelf to adorn them on, and that's a big for people like us. That's a big deal, right? You can't just go to IKEA and pick the first thing you see.
Yeah, you got to be strategic, because what if you want to expand one day? What if you want to end up getting something else in another room? I bought so many bookshelves over the last 4 or 5 years. It's disgusting. I have books in almost every single room of my house, including one of the bathrooms. So it is a problem. It is definitely a problem.
What's in the bathroom? Is that just the Wheel of Time collection? I can
hear the wheelies spinning right now. Just, what did he say?
Yeah, it was just too easy. Low hanging fruit, that joke.
Fires of Heaven is actually a masterpiece. No, no. So in there, I actually keep a couple of the American comics that I've been trying to read through very slowly. I'm a big fan of manga now, but I kind of have neglected Western comics. So I've been trying to read through Saga, which is really good. And then I also have Gideon Falls, which is more of like a graphic novel, like a short run. So I have those in there. And then I know that there's a couple paperbacks in there, but I don't know what they are. Maybe My Wall of Flowers by Tad Williams might be in there, possibly.
Gee, so this is an extensive bathroom collection you've got going.
Well, I spend a lot of time in there, and I like to be comfortable. So.
Oh, man. And the other thing for us, right, we make videos, so it's like, this will be my backdrop.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if I'm going to stick with the booktuber theme, which is you have to have a shelf behind you, otherwise, what are you doing?
I think you should just get a Kindle and then just hang the Kindle on a hook behind you.
Just be that would look kind of like a psychopath, I believe, if I did that.
Yes.
Or we just get the giant Lost in Discovery or Lost in Roshar neon sign. Ooh, the bar is open.
I've looked into signs for my various projects, and I want to get one so bad. Like my dentist actually has a really nice one behind their reception desk, and I asked him, I was like, "Where'd you get that?" So I went to this industrial sign place, and I was giving them ideas, like very rough ideas, and they're like, "Oh yeah, it's like probably I don't know, like $4,200." And I was like, "Oh, I'm good. I'll just use a Sharpie on a whiteboard. I'm out." Like I thought it would be like a couple $100. I was like, this is a big investment. I'll make it into the channel. But I just bought a new camera. I'm not buying anything for a while.
No, cameras are not cheap.
Bro, it was more expensive than my refrigerator.
Yeah, exactly.
Crazy thing.
Look, I think to invest in like hard stuff like that would be if you're making a set. I think, with editing software, you can do a lot. And even then, look, this podcast is doing really well, and it's just two voices in the void. So visuals. That's the
beautiful thing about the podcast, man. Is like I bought this mic years ago, and it can serve me for more years to come, and I don't have to worry about aesthetics visually. I mean, it's appealing thinking about doing everything as a podcast. I don't have to do my hair. There's so many advantages.
Just to clear it up for the audience, Jimmy is looking fine as always. He's putting himself down.
Oh, I thank you.
He's putting himself down.
I'll tell you what, I recorded a vlog this week for my One Piece read through of Water 7.
Oh, no way.
In one of the sections, I'm like, I got out of bed. I rose up from the dead, like Gavilar will in book 5. And I come in here, my hair's messed up. I look terrible. And I'm like, guys, I got to talk about Water 7. So, yeah. And not always do I even consider it for the videos, but I do appreciate your kind sentiment.
Thank you very much. I've never done like a reading vlog. I suppose this is the closest thing where it's like the play-by-play. Yes. It's the most in-depth I've ever gone. And it feels good. It feels good to take it slow, just like the Wave Kings is intended to be.
Yeah.
And slow burn.
It is slow. I will say this. Like I was into this and I was like, you know what? When I first read through this book, I had the feeling of like everyone's like, oh, that book's so slow. And I was like, is it? Like, I don't remember it being slow. Like I just blew through it. But I will say here on the reread and taking it slow, I'm like, yeah, this is a very methodically paced book. Like there is definitely a lot of like what's going on with Dalinar and then furthering that mystery. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying like, oh, it is slow. Like this is actually a pretty slowly paced opening. Which I like. I generally like slower burns personally. It's one of the things I like about both Sanderson and Steven Erikson is that they tend to give you that payoff in that last 20%. And it's like better than you could ever imagine usually. So I trust the process with certain authors and Sanderson's definitely one of those people whenever it comes to Stormlight Archive.
Yeah, I'm keen to be reminded of that. It's been a while since I've experienced a Sanderlanche.
Mm-hmm.
And I have all these memories, but the feeling is kind of escaping me and I can't wait to get there again. It's going to be really hard to pace ourselves. But hey, mate, we've had another glorious weekly poll.
It's the weekly poll. I feel like we need like a little...
Oh, we need a jingle.
We need a jingle.
I think we should all have them like sung by you. I don't want to record anything. I want a fresh take every week, mate. That's your task.
It's a
The
weekly
poll.
poll. It's weekly poll. I don't know.
Cue the
I was
jazz
gonna rhyme it
music.
with whole, but I feel like that's not really the content.
No, all right, Hoyd. Calm down, mate. All right. Who's the biggest wild card in the Stormlight archive? Taravangian, Renarin, Risen, or the Kremlings / the Sleepless? Jimmy and I are recording earlier in the week here, so there's more votes to come, I'd assume. But we're hovering around 2,500 votes. What did you think of this poll this week?
So one, I really like this poll. I did not know what you were going to come up with for this one. Usually we kind of go back and forth, but I was fresh out of ideas for this one. But
yeah,
Taravangian, Renarin, there's a lot of really good options here. To be honest with you, do you say how Risen? Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember the least about Risen out of these four. So maybe you can give me a refresher on that character. But I was a little upset that the Kremlings didn't get a little bit more love, seeing as that was like kind of the first big thing we talked about on the podcast. So I'm a little upset with. I'm a lot upset. I threw some stuff this morning when I saw the poll.
I'm furious.
Yeah,
I'm absolutely furious.
Yeah. Hey, listen, Taravangian's hard to beat. Like he's my favorite Sanderson character of all time, and the Kremlings will be slept on until they're not. Until they're dawned on as sleepless.
Mate, sleepless.
Whoa.
Can't sleep on those. Can't sleep on the sleepless. That's all I'm saying.
It's interesting that Renarin is kind of gaining traction. I know.
Oh, big time.
Yeah, and I know that, in Rhythm of War, we see him kind of step up and do his thing. But I don't know. I definitely wouldn't have expected him to get 36% of this is the closest poll we've had.
Yeah. Yeah. So Taravangian 41%, Renarin 36%, Risen 12%, and the Kremlings at 11%. Yeah, well, I think like Renarin and Taravangian are like two opposite ends of the spectrum, right? Because Renarin has this weird thing where Odium can't spot him. He's just like Odium looks into the future, and Renarin's just this black hole. So by definition, a bit of a wild card. We can't even begin to extrapolate, like what he's doing. People got a bit upset because they're like, oh, you can't put Taravangian in because he's basically a main character now. And true, yes, and he's had his big twists and stuff. But I just thought, we haven't seen what he's going to do, though, with a shard. Like, anything can happen with this guy. I think he's just getting started, mate. He's just warming up.
Yeah, I think he might be elevated to a Cosmere level antagonist like certain other characters in the Cosmere. I think, at least in my mind, like that's where this is going. And you're right, we don't know where he may pop up. We don't know anything. So for me, I think it's fine to put him on there, to be honest. Though, by definition, maybe Renarin actually is the proper pick. Give me some about this Risen. Like remind me what happened in Risen.
So Risen was our Thalen girl with the eyebrows. We're going to meet her soon in the next interludes. And eventually, through events that happen in, I think it's Words of Radiance, she ends up in a wheelchair, right? And then she's the main
Dawnshard.
Yeah, she's the main protagonist in Dawnshard.
I forgot her name. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
And she's got Chiri, which is like the freaking Stormlight-esque dragon thing. And then she takes up a Dawnshard, which is like, everyone's like, what can that do? It feels like it's like one of the building blocks of the Cosmere, which is insane. What does that mean? We don't know. So I feel like she's going to also be like a Cosmere-wide character.
I'll tell you what, man. I love Dawnshard so much. I like Dawnshard more in Rhythm of War, which is like heresy. And I
don't think so.
Oh, really? People like it?
Okay, I think people love Dawnshard. Yeah,
I want to reread it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, hear this, mate. The Dawnshards are the 4 primal commands that Adonalsium used to create all things. So, like, these are like the 4 primal like building blocks of Sanderson's entire world, and this girl's got one of them. So come on, how is she at 12%? I don't know, man.
Not enough people read Dawnshard, apparently.
I mean, that it was hotly debated. She got a lot of support in the comments. And look, we've given some respect to the Kremlings. People are catching on, but we're playing the long game.
We are just like the Kremlings. We're playing the long
game.
and I like the fact that it's like 41 to 36, which again is the closest gap we've ever had between 1 and 2. And then like there's a big drop off, obviously, but like Risen and the Kremlings are neck and neck at 12 and 11. So I like that there's action on both sides of the first and last of this race. My gut says Renarin, by definition, is probably going to be the biggest wild card then. But there's no doubt that Risen and the Dawn Shard is major stuff for sure.
Yeah. And Shallan got some love in the comments too.
That's fair.
I think Shallan is just a generally sort of unpredictable person. So I think, but again, wildcard, it didn't like Shallan's name didn't come to my mind when I was making this. Some people mentioned Axis the Collector, who we'll meet soon as well. But yeah, I couldn't resist adding Tarabangian. It just felt.
Nah, I think it's fine. Plus, we've had Shallan and other polls. We want to kind of change it up every now and then, and we only get 4 options on YouTube with pictures, so we got to make cuts somewhere.
What are we going to end up? Episode 50. It's going to be like which type of rock bird's your fave? Like when you're feeling down.
Yeah, for real.
Like, mate, we're already struggling. We'll figure it out. Something. We need new segments too. Endless possibilities.
We need to rotate segments. I think that's what we need. So we'll put the old thinking cap on and we'll find something that we can do. But I do demand jingles. I think we have to have jingles.
Jingles are necessary. Let us know in the comments if you're jingle positive. And regardless of what you say, we're going to do them.
Yes, so, absolutely.
Yeah. Is it time? Shall we jump into...
Yes, because we do not really have a Sanderson update. I heard, obviously he had an update on the channel, but nothing that I thought was all that interesting for us. So it's been a kind of a quiet week on that front. So we'll jump into the chapter.
I'm just going to stop you there. I saw one cool thing that he said. I'm just, as you were saying it, it came to my mind. He posted on Twitter, which I'm just still not ready to call X yet, but he posted on Twitter that there was a power outage or something to that effect, and he wrote a bit of Stormlight 5, old school pen and paper, baby. So he actually, like. Yeah, right. I think that's kind of cool. I wonder which part that will be in the book that was handwritten by Sanderson.
It's the part where Dalinar dies.
Whoa, you can't just throw that at me, man. You got to give a man a warming.
During a storm, it was definitely Dalinar dying. There's no way.
Oh, yeah. Wait. I wonder if it was during a storm, because that could be. How much do we want to pick apart a tweet?
It's from the hurricane, I bet. The hurricane that came through the west coast of America. I bet you that was it.
We said it was a nice and rainy day in Utah today, and I went outside to write under the canopy. However, my computer ran out of power, so part of Stormlight 5 had to be written old school analog. And he's got a pen and a notebook there.
Yeah, it was raining.
Dalinar's death confirmed.
I like how I just thought it was some like treacherous storm and his batteries ran out, which is a much more.
His laptop died. I shouldn't have pulled up the tweet.
Should have been probably pretty predictable from my end. He did also announce that he said, if you're dedicated to the Cosmere, to make sure to like and subscribe to Lost in Roshar. No, he didn't say that.
Of course he did. How long till we can get an AI Sanderson voice to like?
Oh, that probably already exists. It probably is out there somewhere, and if not, I'll make it. I got some free time at work today.
No, mate, you're gonna get sued.
Yes, for sure. Wouldn't be the first time.
Oh, Jimmy, we'll back you up. Don't worry about it.
Yep, coming soon. Go fund me for getting out of county.
Free Jimmy.
Yeah. All right, these chapters.
Yes,
pretty good. The first one would be Chapter 18, High Prince of War. Who could that be about? So this is one of those split chapters where you bounce back and forth between Adolin and Dalinar. So the very beginning of it, we see Adolin walking around with Janala, and this is the woman that he has been courting. We get some fashion talk just briefly, which is really great for Adolin. And then he visits the leather workers where they're inspecting the strap of Ellikar's saddle, and they tell him that the strap was almost certainly cut, but it's possible it was a buckle from the saddle itself that sliced it. We hear a horn and signifies that a chasm fiend is around, and Adolin is disappointed when Dalinar elects not to go get that. And then we bounce into Dalinar, where he is talking to many of the scribes, attempting to manipulate the other high princes into following Ellikar. And then it ends with him having a conversation with Renarin, telling him, the next shard blade I see, it's going to you, son, which is a really touching and endearing moment. And then we bounce back to Adolin, who's seeking out Kadash, and he's really trying to get some more answers about Dalinar's dreams during the high storms, which we end up coming to the conclusion, at least for Kadash's opinion, that Dalinar is either going insane or the visions are just particularly vivid products of his mind. And then the chapter closes with Dalinar, who goes to Ellikar and kind of says, hey, maybe we shouldn't fight an endless war and try to outlast the Parshendi. Maybe we should just find a way to win the war. And then it all kind of comes together with him wanting to be the High Prince of War, which Ellikar is going to consider, hence the chapter name. And then Dalinar runs into a bit of a storm.
Leading into our first vision, which I can't wait to get to eventually, because I don't know about you, but I found that so much more enjoyable now on the reread.
Oh, definitely. And you know, a lot of questions pop up in my brain when I'm reading that. And then for those wondering, for chapter 19, it's literally all about Dalinar having a vision and him being brought back in the barracks, and people are like, what in the world?
What is wrong with you, buddy?
This vision's crazy. He ends up seeing some radiance. They invite him to come train. We hear talks about the Voidbringers, but also the Midnight Essence, which, you know, I've just completely forgotten about as time has went on.
I'm just going to say one word to you, mate. Tress. Is it ringing any bells? Bringing back some memories. That's all I'm saying. I don't want to get into it, but I'm just going to say Tress. That's all I'm going to say. That's what I was thinking of.
Maybe, yeah, you would be right.
Yeah. Midnight Essence is a phenomenon that you might see elsewhere in your Sanderson travels. Very cool to see it here, though.
Wow.
Yeah.
You just blew my mind.
Yeah, it's all coming together.
That's the thing, is like, you remember things sound familiar and you're like, you figure it's from these 4,000 pages that we've read, but in turn, it's actually been in books I've read. Holy cow.
Yeah, Midnight Essence is very cool. But I suppose we should start with High Prince of War, keep our safe hands covered, and go right into this.
Yes, definitely.
Were you biting your nails with the suspense of if the strap was cut or not? Because I could not contain myself, mate.
I just was like, okay.
Where's it going?
Can we get back to Dalinar?
Oh, well, we get the first mention. The Everstorm comes, the true desolation, the Night of Sorrows. First mention, I believe, of the Night of Sorrows in the Way of Kings. One of very few mentions, an event that I believe will be very significant in the next book. I'm sure it's coming in the next book. We have this whole obsession about the sun going out or the Stormlight itself going out. There's lots of visions of dust. I think this is the first taste of how Roshar is going to change at this halfway mark in the entire 10-book series. And I think it's extremely intentional because especially in the next chapter, in chapter 19, he has got the Radiance like planned out to a T. Like he's not subtle with how many times Dalinar's like, how'd their helmet come off? How'd their helmet come on? When did that happen? It's all thought out. What I first highlighted was Dalinar winning a Parshendi Shardblade and Plate during his first year. I wonder who that was from. I couldn't remember that. Did you have any ideas?
No, I wasn't sure either, and I wasn't sure if it was significant or if this is just one of those like kind of givens. Like, there's like really, it's more about Dalinar than it is the Parshendi at any point. But now that we do know the Parshendi, it's like, yeah, did we find out who this was? And did we forget?
Yeah,
Probably.
this is something I didn't go into researching, to be honest. I just highlighted it and thought, okay, someone else had it. I can't quite remember how abundant like shard, plate, and blade were with the Parshendi besides like Eshonai.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just shows that they've got the same gear. Even though they're on a completely different side of this whole thing. There was a cool little like in these conversations when Adolin visits the priests. I found that the most interesting part. This priest guy was pretty interesting. How he used to be a warrior and
yeah,
I thought
he was very interesting as well. And I was wondering if like I can't remember what happens with Kadash. Is how you say it, Kadash?
Yeah, I'd say so.
So Kadash, I was like, I don't really know what happens to him, but like he almost seems to stick out too much to me. Where it's like, who is this? Like, you know what my immediate thought was, and this is so ridiculous.
Herald.
No, I didn't think it was a herald, but I thought maybe he was a ghost blood agent. That's kind of just the way he was talking and about the stuff he was talking about. Mm-hmm. I was like, maybe possibly this guy, but I don't know. I don't know if I really think that at this point, just because. I feel like by book 4, he would have probably come back around in a major way. And it doesn't appear that he has.
No, I don't think so. As I'm looking him up now, it is not loading. So I'll get back to you on him. But what I found really cool was when he was kind of talking about the histories of Roshar and the history of Voronism and all these things. And he was saying about how the priests used to pretend they had visions from the Almighty to control the population, basically. Mm-hmm. And he said, where there should have been openness, there was smoke and whispers. The priests began to claim visions and prophecies, though such things had been denounced by the heralds themselves. Void binding is a dark and evil thing, and the soul of it was to divine the future. They have this whole thing about you shouldn't look into the future because that's the power of odium. They're totally against all that. But I was like, void binding. I've never heard. I don't remember this term. Did it ring a bell to you?
I feel like I remember hearing about it, but I chalked it up to one of those things that I haven't have a full grasp on as a non-expert in the Cosmere. But it void binding. Have we seen it?
Well, I looked it up, and it seems like it's basically the opposite of whatever surge binding is. And in, I think, the American copies or the hard covers of The Way of Kings, on the back inside cover, it has like some sort of, Stormlight in-world design of what void binding, or the 10 essences of void binding. So I'm guessing it's like sort of the inverse of your wind runners and all these things. I'm supposing so, something along those lines. But I thought it was interesting that he knew all this. And Kadash has loaded. It looks like he's there throughout the Dalinar flashback. So we do see his time pre joining the church, which is cool. So he'll be cool to watch in Oathbringer. That would be fun.
I did get more information on Kadash, and I can't believe I forgot about this. This is the dude that refuses to marry Dalinar and Navani.
Oh, no way. Okay.
Yeah, and he's in Irithiru, and he has a bunch of conflict with Dalinar. And then eventually, during the Battle of Thaylen Field, Kadash found himself in Thaylen City. He was with the other scribes and ardents in a building near the city's Oathgate and operated a span read to Sabriel scribes back in Irithiru. Kadash relayed the news to the attack and confirmed the forces that were unlikely to be able to break through and use the Oathgate to come reinforce the troops in Thaylen City.
Wow. Yeah, we've totally slept on Kadash. I thought the same thing. Like, this guy's really cool. Don't remember where we see him, and I didn't get time to look him up. So that's cool that we get him pre and post. Like old day Dalinar and the new day. That's cool. What I found interesting was when he was talking about the priests of the Hierocracy were cast down. The Sunmaker made a point of interrogating them and going through their correspondences with one another, blah, blah, blah. So I looked up who this Sunmaker dude was because every capital letter, you got to look it up.
That's right.
Who's the Sunmaker? And he was one of the old kings on Roshar. And I kind of went down a rabbit hole with him because he had you know, he was a pretty ambitious guy, and he was a pretty bloody guy. Like, he loved battle. He was conquesting. True Alethi bloke, I'm guessing. And he had a warrior named Sadiz, not Sadius, Sadiz, and they killed so many people. And I looked up the blade of Sadiz, and his blade was none other than Oathbringer, Dalinar's current shard blade, which I thought was pretty cool.
That is really cool.
And then let's go deeper, because okay, yeah, it's a sword, whatever. Then I started reading about Oathbringer, the sword, and I recalled what type of spren it was, and it's a Deadeye, because of course it's a Deadeye. It's, you know, a standard shard blade. It's a Deadeye peak spren. And I'm like, oh, what a peak spren again. And then I start reading about peak spren. This is everyone's experience on the Copper Mind, right? It's just like, oh, one more link. And I started reminding myself about peak spren. Peak spren, mate. You know what they look like? Get ready. This is the finisher. You know what they look like? Oh, no, even better. Rocks. They look like rocks, dude. And the way they appear in the physical realm, it's like they're walking out of a rock. They look like a rock that's cracking. What?
Bro, there is the word rock is mentioned in the prologue with the heralds, like the very first prologue, this prelude.
Oh, yeah?
Dude, I mean, Kalak rounded a rocky stone ridge and stumbled before a body of a dying thundercast. And then just like a couple lines later, there's more talks of granite boulders and rocks. Like the word rock is used,
it's everywhere
so often. And remember in the last chapter we even talked about it. Like,
yeah,
I said, oh, there's a rock, or Tien gives Kaladin a rock.
Yeah, they're everywhere, dude. And then I thought about Zeth with the stones and the stone walking and all this stuff. So all of these things, I'm like, oh, the web it's all connecting, but I can't figure it out. Yeah, it says in the physical realm, peak spren take forms that appear to be made of stone. They can hide inside real rocks if they wish. When they want to reappear, they emerge as if breaking their form out of the rock. Come on, dude.
Yeah, that's it, man. And literally, I've actually seen people who have broken down, you know, the writing of Sanderson, and there's always a lot of conversation around that. And people say, you know, he mentions the word rock a lot. Like, he uses a different word. Oh, yeah. Like the word rock is used like way more than you would expect, especially in the Way of Kings. So from now on, every time there's a rock mention, I'm circling it in my book.
Yeah, who's there, mate? Who's watching?
This seems like a big deal.
Yeah, I don't know. I just found it interesting as well that it was Dalinar's sword was a peak spren too.
Oh boy.
It's just the rabbit holes that we can fall down, mate.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So it's cool to see the origin of these shard blades, because you kind of forget they used to be living spren, all of them, which would have their own story too. Man, the task that Sanderson's going for is just such a mammoth task. I don't know how you.
Very impressive.
I would love to see like how he keeps this all straight, because surely he's not going on the Copper Mind and being like, "What did I write?" He's got his own like epic. Maybe he's got like his own Urithiru library, and he's got all these people working for him, all these scrolls. Oh,
this is gonna be crazy.
I imagine finishing the Wheel of Time. Like, he had to come into a series that was 10 books in already.
Yeah.
And he had to complete it, going through all those notes. If anything would prepare you to start writing Stormlight, that would do it. Yeah, it's amazing. So all those things, that's the rabbit hole I went down just from the word Sunmaker. So this is what these books do to you, man. But did anything else stand out to you in this chapter? I think the next most significant scene was Dalinar's conversation with Elokar.
Yeah, I think that this is, I mean, I thought the Renarin stuff was really, really interesting, because we get like a lot more into like why Renarin is a little bit different than his brother and just other people in general. So Dalinar says, "I've been meaning to speak to you, son," Dalinar said, "about the hunt last week." I just changed his voice in the second sentence for no reason. Renarin's eyes flickered downward in shame, the edges of his mouth pulling back in a grimace. "Yes, he did have emotions. He just didn't show them as often as others. And I wonder if this is maybe Sanderson trying to point to maybe a further condition with Renarin, that maybe he could possibly be neurodivergent or just something else. You know what I mean? It seems like a subtle hint to be like, there's something else going on with Renarin. I don't really think it's magical, by the way. I think it's just Renarin.
Yeah.
And also, I just wanted to be like, really, Dalinar? Your kid's like older, and you're like, oh, he does have emotions.
I know he's 20.
Dalinar's
just switched
Are you
on.
the worst dad ever or not? Like,
I mean, he kind of was during their childhood.
Dalinar
he's very late to the game. Oh my god! Ooh, getting real and lost in Roshar. Yeah, man, it's like he's the dad who's come back after being away for way too long, and he's still learning about his kids in their early 20s.
He's finding out they have emotions, which is just a wild thing.
It took him a minute, but he give him some time.
I did think it was an endearing moment. I mean, I'll give him that, saying, hey, I'm going to get you that. And, the mention of the blood weakness is always something that I'm always very curious about. Do we know, and you would know better than me, do we get more explanation around the blood weakness?
I think at some point it's confirmed that it's basically epilepsy.
Yes.
But beyond that, I don't think so. Yeah.
I wasn't sure if maybe we thought an Unmade was after him or something like that, especially with him being like you know what I mean? Like not seen in the future. I wasn't sure if maybe that would be a part of something magical.
Yeah, it seems like later that Odium gets clued into why Renarin's a bit of a wild card, so to speak. So I don't think so. I think just plainly he was born with this, and even though generally people in Roshar are a bit more invested, that's the whole thing in the Cosmere. They're just a bit better than everyone else because there's just the world has a lot of magic going on, so everyone's a bit more resistant to things. But it shows that you can still be born with differences. It's the classic trope of like the dad who played football, but he's got that weak son who's like, I want to play games, Dad.
No,
and he's trying to relate.
Lace up your
buy
clothes.
Some gear.
Not raising no wimps.
No, and his little eyes lighting up. Like, really, Dad? You'll buy me a shard plate?
Yeah, and then Renarin also pushed back, and he makes this statement, which tells me it'll be the opposite because that's how fantasy books work. It says, Father, Renarin said flatly, I'll never be a shard bearer. You yourself have said that the blades and plate we win from Parshendi must go to the most skilled warriors. And I'm like, okay, so you said you'll never do it. That means in a fantasy book that you will do it. Anytime someone in fantasy
it's like
never happen early, it's going to happen.
Or like when people are like, I'll see you tomorrow. Don't worry.
Oh, yes.
Goodbye, honey. Car crash. Yeah.
I've been thinking about it. Maybe we should have that baby. It's like, well, they're dead.
Let's name him after your father. Oh, if you know the reference, you know it.
Rip.
You know it. Yep. See you later. Get him out. What I found interesting here, right, was jumping ahead a little bit. The conversation with Elika I found really interesting. I loved Elika, as annoying as he is, he's a very well-written character, and his paranoia is totally understandable, and he's just young and inexperienced and ill-equipped and doesn't know who to trust or who to look to. All of these things are touched on. But I quite like this part where he was telling Dalinar that he sounded like his brother. You sound like him, Elika said, turning back to look eastward again, near the end when he began to act erratically. Surely I'm not so bad as that. Perhaps, but this is much like how he was, talking about an end to war, fascinated by the Lost Radiance, insisting everyone follows the codes. And even Dalinar's like, man, am I really starting to sound that much like him? What struck me here was just how much, like, the unsaid context of them being like, yeah, he was kind of crazy by the end of it. And I wonder how that was a bit, like, I know he was a bit aloof and in his study and doing things, but like, it seems like a bit more than that by the way these guys are talking about him.
Yeah, and I wonder if more of that will come out in book 5, seeing as the prologue really revolves around that entire situation.
Yeah, people don't like me talking about the prologue as much as I'm itching to on this podcast. I understand that people want to wait for the book to come out, but let's just say I've started to see the connections between. It made me question a bit about what Gavilar was going through in his final days, and if it was quite similar to Dalinar now. Has this all happened before with another brother? We'll have to wait and see, I suppose.
Yeah, and how much of the goals that these two brothers have, how similar are those really, and for the reasoning of doing it, and yada yada yada, and also like what kickstarted all this. I mean, there's a lot of sides to this mystery.
It's wild. Like Gavilar, even in the flashbacks and Rhythm of War, he's like working with people who aren't even from this planet. I think it started a long time ago.
Yeah, and I just want to know how that rabbit hole got opened.
Yeah, exactly. Like where, at what point, who contacted him, or what happened? Yeah, or did he start it somehow? All these questions and more.
And just because he was contacted didn't mean it would just have to be happenstance. Was there someone scheming on a Cosmere level and knew that this was the way to go? Probably. Right? Probably.
Yeah.
So there's just a lot of forces at play here, and Elhokar is a well-written character. I would agree with you. I think that he can be extremely frustrating, and the strap is my least favorite thing in this entire book. But I do enjoy reading Elhokar's scenes.
It's so funny, man. Like we have these beautiful, emotionally charged scenes, like my dad died, and you're his brother, and you like my mom, and it's all complicated. And then he's just like, "But what about the strap? Have you looked into the strap, dude?" Like, no one believes me. I'm just like, God, this strap, we can't escape it.
But I guess 2 chapters since he did it, right?
Yeah, he's like, come on, when's someone going to pick up on this? But yeah, look, I got frustrated on Dalinar's end because he's trying to defend the Way of Kings. Very relatable situation in my life. He's like, no, it was written by the Lost Radiants. And Dalinar's like, actually, it was written by Noadan. I just felt him in that moment. I know how that feels, man.
It's not fun.
Yeah, no, it isn't. He's like, you're spending too much time reading that damn book. I'm like, stop talking to me that way. Jeez, come on.
I'll take out the trash eventually. It's fine.
I just speak in Stormlight quotes now.
Yes.
That's all I do. Yeah. Chapter 19, I think. I think it's time to go back to the past with Dalinar, or Heb, should I say, and get your fire poker ready.
Get that fire poker ready, because we are in a blast from the past. So the storm hits at the end of chapter 18. Dalinar thinks he's going to be able to actually get through it, and that is not the case. So we end up seeing some strange creatures. Dalinar's obviously in this vision someone else, and then he seems to be trying to protect a girl and a lady, which happens to be his wife and daughter in this actual situation. It's very funny. The woman's like, hey, which is Talfa? Is that, or Tafa?
Tafa, I believe. Yeah.
So Tafa is like, hey, why don't you know the geography of your own home? And Dalinar's like, I got hit real hard in the head. Sorry, man.
And by the end, he's like, God, woman, don't you remember? I got hit in the head. Stop. He's just like actually annoyed by it.
Classic Dalinar.
And she's like, since when do you call me woman? Good on you, Tafa. Don't take it from Heb.
Hey, she better be careful, or he'll burn her alive.
Hey, man. I think she had a healthy relationship. They'd gone through all this work. They understood each other. And now it's like, hey, woman, let's go. Where's this come from?
How it begins? Is this the end?
Yeah, it's like one death creature comes down and you forget all our couples therapy. Come on.
Yeah, for real. Dalinar has a bad showing here as a husband, which he does later in Oathbringer too. So,
what a shocker, Dalinar! Come on.
What do you make of this? I mean, this vision is long. There's a lot to it, and there's midnight essence. There's the mention of Irithiru, which I'm like, holy crap, we've been there. That's cool. And the radiance.
Yeah, dude, it's like it felt like a chapter out of Rhythm of War. It felt
It did.
like we jumped back, but we went back to the future. Let's just say that. Um, Firstly, I'm just like, man, how the heck do these visions operate? Like, what is this? Because he can interact and change things. It's not like he doesn't have free will. It's not like he is acting as Heb did, however many years ago it was. He can still control the narrative to some degree, right? So it's almost like it's a simulation with some freedom, you know?
Is that it, or was Heb in that moment always Dalinar? You know what I'm saying? Like, if
here he comes with the time travel.
I've been covering a lot of brand theories and bend the knee, so I'm on the timeline kick. But
I don't.
yeah,
Yeah. See, I don't get
know.
the time. I don't get like a time travel thing. I get more like because a god has set these visions up to give to someone, right? So in
Yeah,
my head, he's created them. He's like taken the information and created like a scenario that you can like be almost like a video game level. That's how I've always interpreted it.
it's a metaverse. Okay.
Yeah. Even before I understood what the hell was going on. Even though I still don't understand what the hell is going on. Another question mark for me was Dalinar feels the thrill in these chapters, and I know that like an unmade cause or what like an unmade causes the thrill. So I'm like, was that unmade near that area then, or is this the thrill in the current timeline affecting Dalinar in his vision? That was my question.
That's a solid point.
Yeah,
It does make you kind of wonder. With Midnight Essence being there, I wouldn't be surprised if this was back then and it being close.
yeah.
Do you think there's any significance to the poker?
I think I don't think so. It was a bit weird that they like a poker would kill these like super magical things. I mean, he lit it on fire. It was described glowing like the honor blades of the heralds, but I think it might just be a poker and Dalinar. It's just he knows his stuff.
Just being a beast. Okay.
Even the
Okay.
radiants were like, dude, what's
They
that
invite him to
technique?
train. That
Yeah,
I think
he's like,
honestly, I feel like that is like the key of this vision.
yeah.
Looking ahead now is that like you need to get the Irithiru, you need to train the
Oh,
Radiants.
it seems so bloody obvious.
It
Like
does.
its vision, it's like, how are we ever confused? Like, this is so clear. It's just like, what happens again now? The Radiants have their little base. I found it. There's so many interesting points. Like they're confined to like what's known as Alethkar now, or Alethela as they called it. Like the Radiants only operate there. They only do war in this region or whatever, and the rest of Roshar is peaceful because of that. That was interesting. The way their shard plate glows and that with if I'm correct, we've only seen that with I think definitely with Kaladin by the end of Rhythm of War and potentially with Yasna in that same book, and that only happens once you've sworn the fourth ideal. It's when you can just spawn your shard plate as like all the little sprens form your shard plate. That's how their helmets keep coming on and off. I imagine it like Iron Man in Avengers when he gets the nano tech,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that. That's how I picture it. So that's cool that was already planned out here too. And what also struck to me was the Radiant told him, spread the word. Signs like this one are not without import. A desolation is coming. And also Tafa, the wife, is like, I mean, I've never seen this in my lifetime. Maybe this is common in a desolation. So these people aren't used to desolations, and it hasn't even started yet. So all these points were interesting to me.
Yeah, and not least is the Midnight Essence, which if people are wondering, I have the Copper Mine pulled up here. It says Midnight Essence is a substance that appears throughout the Cosmere, most notably connected to Midnight Ether and the Re-Shephir, I think is how you say that. Midnight Essence has not been shown to exist without some degree of sentence or possession through a Luho bond, and therefore can be considered both a substance and a creature. However, whether or not it is truly sentient is questioned.
Yeah, so the unmade Re-Shephir, I think, I don't know how to say it. I say Re-Shephir in my
You're probably right.
my little accent. But that's the unmade we saw in Irithiru in Words of Radiance, the one that was like duplicating Shallan and Adolin and all the Bridge 4 guys, and copying all the murders. Do you remember that? It was like a weird murder mystery in the tower there for a while. Yeah. So that's what's creating it on Roshar. So it's cool to see that was happening however long ago. So the Unmaids are all like splinters of Odium, and I don't really know how sentient even that Unmade is. I think there's a big question of like how deliberate these creatures are, because they seem to like, from wherever you see Midnight Essence, it tends to mimic things around it, and I couldn't figure out what it was mimicking in this chapter. Like 6 legs, like sort of like Axehound is probably the closest thing that I can imagine it was trying to copy.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, because like in the tower, it was like, oh my god, it was so creepy, and Shallan's drawings of it was so weird. But yeah, regardless of all that, I love the description of them. It's almost like it's hard to explain, but I can perfectly picture when he describes it. It's kind of like how oil, when light hits oil, you get that weird rainbowy reflection kind of look. The woman, Taffa says a few things which also build out the culture a little bit. So she says, she exclaims 3 gods at some point. And immediately my thought was, okay, honor, cultivation, odium. But then I thought, how do they all know about them back then?
That's a good question.
So is it them? Are the 3 gods she's saying as an exclamation those gods, or are they talking about the 3 moons of Roshar? Are they talking about like 3 unmade, because she seems to be somewhat aware of what those are? I somewhat lean towards it just being honor, cultivation, and odium.
I think I would as well.
Yeah.
Because we also don't know, again, if this is like a true event or just some sort of, like you said, simulation.
I think it is a simulation of a true event. That's the impression I get. But you have some freedom to mess with it a bit, because like he asks random questions. I do like, I mean, the more I think about it, your whole like, maybe he was always Heb at this moment. Maybe. But it feels like these visions can be given to different people. I don't know.
Yeah, and also, the fact that Taffa's voice ends up sounding like a voice that he's heard in past visions, right? So like kind of tells you someone's behind it with a narrative that they want to push. So to me, that means that, details could be added, they could be subtracted. So I think it's probably just the 3 that you were thinking of.
Mm-hmm. So how did you take this conversation that he has with Honor at the end? Because that's who's speaking. Honor comes in and does his little closing statements. What did you take from all that?
I wasn't too sure if it's anything that we've seen yet. So I'm not positive. I'm waiting for you to crack the code and tell me that it's like the key to the entire series.
I'll do my best.
All right, let's hear it.
All right. Let's get into this. So the way I take it is he's not, and by the way, this is not like some original thing for me. This is kind of widely talked about. I don't think he's actually having a conversation with Dalinar here. I think this is like a pre-recorded message with like pauses, and then Dalinar asks questions that he thinks are being answered, but they're not. So if you read just the parts that Taffa or Ono is saying, it makes sense if you take out all the Dalinar replies. So without Dalinar's replies, it goes like this. I wish I could help you. You have to unite them. To speak of what might be is forbidden. To speak of what was depends on perspective, but I will try to help. Yes, this is important. Do not let strife consume you. Be strong, act with honor, and honor will aid you. Like,
wow,
that doesn't sound like he's having a conversation. Hey, that's his message to whoever's
I love that pre-recorded on the cassette tape message.
Yeah.
I've never heard that. That's crazy.
Yeah, and it reminded me, right, because we had this point I had to cut out a few episodes ago. I accidentally muted Jimmy, and like he was still replying to me but I would like talk over him and interrupt and stuff. And I think that's what I thought of. Like Dalinar's like talking through the pauses. Like, do I help Sadeas? Yes. This is important. He's like, oh, thanks. No, this isn't to you.
It's so funny because I took away from the conversation. I was like, well, Sadeas is to be trusted. And it turns out that I'm just as dumb as Dalinar. And it turns out Renarin does have feelings. It's crazy.
Oh, what? You telling me now?
I'm stuck on it.
Wait, he has feelings? Like past 20 years, I haven't noticed.
That's so crazy.
It's just a nerd with glasses. Yeah, so that's why the whole like these are pre-made sort of thing clicks for me, because
that is so funny too, because Dalinar says finally something concrete.
Yeah, your skull get Dalinar. That's what you're talking about. Gee.
Also, do we have concrete in Roshar? I'm just thinking about that. Is that a word he should have used?
He should have said finally something rock
stone.
solid. Oh yeah, set in stone.
Oh, rock solid. No, I like that better now that we know what we know. Finally, something concrete. And it just immediately made me go, they have concrete in Roshar? That's weird.
Who's mixing the concrete? Do they? I mean, yeah, you're so right. I mean, they just soul cast stone or whatever. Yeah, something concrete. True. I guess it's meant to be a translated work. If you
took me out of the book. 1 out of 10.
Yeah, honestly, thesaurus.com, Sanderson. Jeez. But look, that's it's the long string of Dalinar misinterpreting everything, I think. Off we go. My son has feelings, something concrete. I'm sure the list will grow. But no, he's the man can fight. Hey, if a fourth ideal Radiant comes to you and says, hey bro, what's that technique? Respect to you. It's like the NBA All-Stars coming to you at like the local park.
Yeah, like, right. Like, hey, can you teach me that spin move you just did?
Yeah, that's awesome. That's so cool.
It's important too because we've seen Dalinar in the race. We saw he was capable there, but we spent a lot of time with people doubting Dalinar, being embarrassed of Dalinar. So to kind of get a checkpoint here of being like, oh, by the way, Dalinar is insane, and there's something going on with this thrill. You know what I mean? Like, it's good for the reader to see, like, oh, it gives us a reason to kind of root for him a little bit more, and also wonder what happened, why he's not like this anymore. So it does a lot.
I also wondered how good he was, because Taffa's like, that was only a few heartbeats. I'm like, well, how fast did he move? Did he go like crazy speed, or is she just like, what's Heb been supplementing? I don't know. Sorry, I'm going to add in one more exclamation that she says. She says, sweet wisdom of Batar, like as another oh my gosh thing, which is a name of a herald. So it just shows the heralds were like common like figures that they would refer to back then. Just fun.
And now we have to like look really hard to spot them as readers. It's so weird.
Yeah.
There really is a sense of time passing by in these books, like, or in the history of Stormlight Archive. And that adds so much depth and scope to the series for me.
Yeah. The Radiants feel so otherworldly, especially in this context where everyone's like in a hut.
Yeah.
And they like fly down from the sky glowing. Like, oh my God.
It's
what
almost
a better life they have.
Yeah, it's really crazy to think about. There's a book called The Wolf, and it's called Under the Northern Sky, and it's by Leo Carew. And I actually think the book's just okay. I don't think it's that great, but it is written in an alternative history where like there were multiple, like, so there's humans, but then there's also other like spin-offs of humans from the evolutionary track. So like if Neanderthals hadn't been, gone extinct. Yeah. And one of the things that I really liked about the story or the world building of that book was that the angels that are called in the Bible and the giants and stuff that are mentioned in like the Christian Bible are actually like these subsets of different humans that have evolved. And people didn't know what they were seeing, so they named them that. And this is like the explanation for it, and they exist in the world.
Oh, that's cool.
And I was like, if you're sitting in a hut and you're Heb and you see a herald drop out of the sky, you're probably like, what? You know what I mean? Like, can you imagine like what that would do to you? You'd be flabbergasted. You would think there was aliens, which turns out they're the aliens, but You know what I mean? Like, it's just something totally different than what you are.
Yeah. 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 It's like, what's the point of relation there? They're just so, yeah, it's just the gap is so wide. Like the day of a Radiant versus the day as Taffa and Heb chilling by the fire. Oof.
It's no surprise that they're talked about almost as myths at this point.
Yeah.
No one really.
You start to think, this is why they're always harping on about them in the present day. Like they were basically superheroes. So yeah. So the female Radiant, who is a healer of some kind, probably an edge dancer. She refers to the other guy, Harkalen. So I'm supposing Harkalen was the other guy. I'm not too sure. But she does say, like, wow, what's the quote? Harkalen says the desolation is close and he is not often wrong. So I'm not sure. Yeah, I should have come with more information there. But he's just another Knights Radiant who's keeping an eye on things, guys.
Yeah, we have very, very little mentioned here. And Harkalen is a female Knight Radiant mentioned. Female Knight, I'm sorry, mentioned it to Dalinar, right, whenever he appeared in the vision.
Yeah. So she's just mentioned, but you don't. I thought it was the other male guy who flew off, but no. But yeah, what I found that so much better on a reread, so painfully clear. It's beautiful how he does it. That can be cool. You follow the chapter, but like Urithiru and all these locations being named and the heralds and the ratings, it's so clear and baked into our brains now. We can just really pick it apart.
Yeah. There's a lot of breadcrumbs here that kind of told us exactly what was about to happen, which is crazy.
Yeah, and we kind of got this time loop. Like, eventually the tower comes back and the ratings are there, and
time is a wheel, my friend.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, what a great way to wrap up this episode. Oh man. Anything else you would like to say, mate, or are we? Is it another episode in the bag?
I think it's another episode in the bag. I like these two chapters quite a bit. Even the strap stuff was pretty brief, which was great.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to more Adolin chapters where he's doing things other than just talking about Dalinar, making them wear outfits and talking about the strap. That's going to be great. But always excited to see anything about the Knights Radiance and Urithiru.
Yeah, totally agreed, man. It was another great time. But as always, everybody, thank you for accompanying us on this episode of Lost in Roshar. Remember, the most important chapter a man can read is the next one. We'll see you next week to dive into 3 chapters, 20, 21, and 22.
Yes, and if you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, be sure to leave us a review on whichever platform you listen on. If you have feedback, questions, or theories, spam read us at lostinroshar@gmail.com. And we'll see you next time on Lost in Roshar. And remember always to keep that safe hand covered.